Welcome to A Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. I'm Evan J. Chalfin from Luxhammer, where we help the brands to help you live healthier. Today, I'm joined by Shehla Rooney, PT, GCS CEO, and creator of GoKnee, who's transforming knee replacement recovery and an innovative home-based solution. Shehla, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk with you.
So, what was the specific patient moment that sparked the creation of GoKnee?
Just a healthy individual had knee replacement surgery. He was motivated and compliant. It was probably about 6 years ago, and he was coming for outpatient PT, and his knee just wasn't getting enough flexion. And he'd gone to a follow up appointment with his surgeon at about 6 weeks, and his surgeon said the dreaded word of MUA, which is a manipulation under anesthesia. And he kind of said, "Hey, if your knee doesn't get moving better, we might need to talk about that at the next follow up." So obviously, the individual did not want a second procedure. And he was speaking to a colleague of mine and kind of said, "Whatever it is you guys do to my knee in the clinic, like, how do I do those types of exercises at home? Because if I can do those every day, and maybe I can get this knee moving." And it just sparked an idea. I mean, we went to a local hardware store, we built something that kind of mimicked our hands and then showed him how to use it so he could go home and do things like joint mobilizations and isometrics and some muscle energy techniques. And again, you just lo and behold, it worked. His knee got moving, no manipulation. And then, like a typical therapist, we put it in the equipment closet because we were done. If we addressed the problem of one patient, we addressed the problem for one patient, and we're like, let's go to the next patient, put it in the closet. It's kind of how it started.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what was that transition from treating your patient one-on-one to developing this scalable solution for so many people?
Well, it was a journey. Like, it took a long time to actually figure. It took months. Like, meaning we had a few other patients that came through, and we were kind of like, I think that device could help her out too, and it could help this person out too. And so you bring it out a couple of times, and then you're like, could this actually be something that could kind of be the home exercise program for these patients? And so, you fast forward, you talk to business people, you talk to lawyers, you establish a business, you start the patent process, you start getting clinical research, and you're involved in that process, which was, all super exciting. And then you're really honing in on, how do you fix this prototype? How do you make it look better? How do you make it look sophisticated? What should the actual exercise program look like with this device if we're actually going to build a business around it? And again, a lot of research, talking to a lot of PTs. It's considered an older adult surgery. It's getting younger, but 6 years ago, even, we were kind of like, we kind of want to do some sports medicine type exercises. We want to give them really aggressive, advanced exercises, not just ankle pumps and hip abduction and short arc quads. We wanted to be aggressive. And so we did a deep dive into the research and what exercises we could do. And we kind of created a protocol that kind of touches base with all aspects of knee replacement recovery, the prehab, the stretching, the extension, the flexion, the quad control, the hamstrings, joint mobs, all of it. And we just packaged it all up with a simple device. We actually finally learned that it's not our hands that can make that patient better, because the patient typically hates our hands. We inflict pain on them. Their brain hates us. Not to mention insurance, doesn't cover inpatient rehab anymore. You don't get therapy 5 times a week, and you're getting it once or twice, home health, outpatient. So, it was really obvious to us that the more advanced the home program, the more you can teach them to do things, the higher the likelihood they're going to get that dream outcome. And a lot of people are like, oh, home exercise programs, they suck. Nobody does them. Patients don't do them. But what I've learned is knee replacement is an elective procedure. These patients have waited years to make the decision to have it. So they're motivated. They want the dream outcome. And I think if you provide them with exercises that they see the difference every day of their recovery, they're motivated, they're compliant. And if you're motivated and compliant, your knee gets better, you get better outcomes.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, the motivation when you're getting the surgery, you know, you're you've been waiting because you want to get that mobility back, and so it makes a lot of sense. Completely agree with that. I understand the Belmont University study showed impressive results. What findings surprised you the most?
So full disclosure, I don't love research unless it's supporting something that I'm putting out there. So it was fantastic to have these doctorate students, like 2 years of research, and what they realized, again, in a nutshell, was that patients who used GONI's program plus physical therapy as part of their post-surgical recovery had the best results. And the best results means they were obtaining flexion range of motion in 3 weeks, what they were getting with just traditional PT alone at 6 weeks. So, say for example, a patient gets only PT 2 to 3 times a week. On average, they were showing 115 degrees of range of motion of flexion at 6 weeks. Well, we were getting that at 3 weeks. And so they kind of just said, whoa, you're getting the knee straighter faster, you're getting the knee bending quicker. And all of that reduces swelling, it reduces pain, again, increases compliance and motivation, which then it's like a perpetuating. If you can get their knee moving, then pain, swelling, stiffness all go down, motivation, compliance, and mobility go up because they start doing more. You don't even have to tell them to do more. They just start doing more. So it's a beautiful process. And in all honesty, I'm kind of like annoyed at myself for not realizing the importance of the home exercise program. As a PT who's always tried to develop her skills, I was learning things like taping techniques and scraping and cupping and dry needling and manual techniques, but all of those things require the patient to come to me, right? And so in a healthcare system where healthcare doesn't want the patient to come to me all the time and the patient can't afford it, it only makes sense that we have to be educators and we have to provide them with tools and programs that they can do on their own.
Yeah, speaking of education, you've presented at major conferences worldwide. What's the most common reaction from healthcare professionals when they first learn about GONI?
They always say, why didn't I think about that? Or I always get that is the most, that's the simplest device I've ever seen, and it used to be a sore spot for me because the device looks ridiculously simple. I mean, if anybody goes and checks out the website, they're going to be like, really? She's talking about like PVC and pool noodle? Like, what is that? But we created it with the end user in mind. That's the patient. They might have arthritis in their hands and in their back and in their hip. It needed to be lightweight. We wanted their brain to trust the device. Nobody is scared of PVC and pool noodle, right? It moves, it shifts, it's flexible, it's also durable, it lasts. A lot of patients don't like their legs strapped into something or cranked into something, and even electronic or hydraulic. We therapists love equipment, but when it really comes down to it, the patient wants to know that it's safe, it's easy, it's familiar. Their brain wants to know this is not going to cause harm. But yeah, people around the world, for the first few years when I presented, I was like, someone has got to have figured this out. Someone has got to have created something like this. But I sometimes think our profession really focuses on us and what we can do for the patient, versus what can we educate the patient, or can we build something that really is just for them to use without us?
Yeah, definitely. So, with over a million knee replacements annually in the US alone, how are you positioning GoKnee to serve a growing market?
Well, this is a great question. I will tell you, I've had the hardest time penetrating the United States, even though we're in 49 US states, not yet in Wyoming, working on that. But the US is a different system compared to other places in the world. So it's a monetized system, right? So surgeons like to do surgery. That's fair. Therapists like to do therapy. That's fair. So it's been a struggle to try to convince therapists to do a program that could, in essence, reduce the number of PT visits needed. Patients might cancel a few of their PT visits because they're really doing exceptionally well. And same with surgeons. I mean, surgeons don't specialize in the post-op, recovery. If you ask a surgeon, hey, how many knees have you rehabilitated from start to finish? Typically the answer is zero. So I find that, it's been a hard sell to tell surgeons like, hey, I got a program. And they're like, great, talk to my PT. And then you talk to the PT, and it kind of depends. If you get a clinic owner, well, they got their business hat on. So might not be a good fit. But then you have direct line clinicians who really don't have time to be looking at innovative products or, home exercise programs. And so it's actually been very challenging for me. The easiest person for me to sell to market to, is the individual. that patient that's online Googling, what do I need for my knee replacement? What should I do? What should I avoid? What can I buy now to get that dream outcome? And so I've had a lot more success with finding the individual online, and then they share the GONI with their therapist and their surgeon. So I've kind of done some backwards marketing. I mean, again, for your listeners out there, I would love to speak with forward thinking innovators, trailblazers that are kind of like, wow, I get that. That sounds so interesting. They're not scared to change how they do their therapy practice. I think I kind of assumed everybody was like me, which was, I want to learn something new and then I want to apply it. I want to learn something new and I want to apply it. And I want to dismiss what's not working and keep adding to what's working. So it never ever occurred to me that if a patient canceled their visits, then I clearly didn't have a value for them. So I needed to increase my value. So I've talked to a lot of PTs across the US and the world, and their thing is, if GONI can do pain, swelling, and range of motion, then what do I do? Right. And I'm like, you do balance and proprioception and functional training and gait training. I mean, a lot of these, I can get a patient to get 120 degrees of flexion and 0 degrees extension. Now, remember, I'm not seeing anybody. It's all done. I ship out the program. It arrives at their home. There's videos. I don't ever talk to the patient. But what I hear from the people that do reach out to me, they're like, why am I still limping if my motion is good? Right? And that can be a habit. And that requires gait training. It requires our skills, or why can't I go downstairs? Well, let's look at that. So I feel like the role for PT can shift. Let's pass the range of motion, the pain and the swelling to the patient with an advanced home program, and let us use our hands-on skills and knowledge to do functional re-ed and return to sport, return to leisure activities. These patients are really unique. They're having this surgery electively to get a dream outcome, to return to something they haven't done in years, maybe decades. I think that's really valuable. And I'd rather see them maybe 2 months after the surgery, 3 months after the surgery, versus using all of their therapy visits in the first 6 to 8 weeks when they're hurting. But again, that's a harder sell for me. That's my dream, was to change how therapists and surgeons treat knee replacement patients.
Yeah, definitely. So, what would you say makes GOTNI unique compared to other home recovery solutions?
I'd say the biggest difference is the device allows the patient to do joint mobilizations safely on their own. And joint mobilizations are techniques we have used for years. And I mean, the research has been out there for decades on the benefits of joint mobilizations for flexibility, gaining range, reducing pain, just overall good arthrokinematic type things. So I think GONI's claim to fame is, if the patient can do joint mobs and do muscle energy techniques like contract, active movement, I think those are advanced exercises compared to just active range of motion, passive range of motion, active assisted range of motion, which is really the bulk of the home exercise program. And and this is not like me criticizing the way we do it in the US. This is actually a universe, like a global problem. I have talked to therapists around the world, and when they send me the home exercise programs that they have patients doing, they're all similar. Again, ankle pumps, short arc quads, long arc quads. They might add in sit to stands, heel slides, heel props, wall slides. All of those fall into the passive range, active assisted range, and active range of motion. I want to gain range of motion using isometrics. I want to use it using joint mobs in addition to just static stretching. GONI's program has static stretching, but I think you asked is, what's the differentiator? The differentiator is using advanced exercises like mobilizations, muscle energy techniques, and stuff like that.
So, when you're reaching out to the consumer directly, how are you reaching them? What's the best method for you?
Okay, so again, for those health professionals listening, not a marketing person. I literally joined Facebook in 2020. So this has been a huge learning curve for me, is to figure out, when a patient Googles online, I'm having knee replacement surgery, or what do I need to know, or my knee is stiff, how do they find me? So I'm not going to bore people with all the details of like Google ads or Facebook ads or what SEO is. But, in essence, website, all about your website and how it's tagged and optimized. But I did it through writing blogs about things that patients need to know, creating YouTube videos that educate the consumer and the patient. So that way, when they type into a Google search query or any search query, like my knee is stiff, how do I get it to bend? They might find a blog I've written or a video I've created or even just a Q&A I've put out in the universe of Google, and Google's little bots have connected the question with my answer. And then the more you do that, it's kind of like in the algorithm on our phones, right? You scroll something, you click on one website, next thing you know, you got 10 ads for that one thing that you were looking at. So it's very sophisticated technology in the sense of when a patient is looking for something, artificial intelligence and Google and all these things, they want to connect the answer to that patient. And if you can become the expert online, so my goal is that my website is full of useful information that can help the patient, and Google will help them find that information the more I put out.
Yeah, absolutely. What challenges do you face in raising awareness and educating your customers?
Such a good question. When you say customers, like I said, there's a few buckets. So the consumer themselves, the patient themselves, the biggest barrier I have is not necessarily finding them. I get like tens of thousands of people to my website. That's not the problem. The problem is when they want to buy it or they have bought it and they show it to their PT or they show it to their surgeon and they're like, hey, I'm going to use this. And the PT or the surgeon says, I don't know what that is, right? There goes the trust that I took so long to build with the patients. They're kind of like, well, if my PT or my surgeon doesn't know about it, then maybe I shouldn't be using it. That's a barrier. It'd be great to have the endorsement of the health professional, but we all know if they don't know about it, what are they going to do? So I've not done a great job of educating health professionals and surgeons. And in my defense, it's because the research came out at the end of 2019. So I had a 6-month plan going into 2020 of going to trade shows and in-person marketing to large orthopedic practices and large therapy chains. But we all know what happened in early 2020, a global pandemic that shut down surgeries and in-person anything and trade shows. So I really didn't have a choice. I had to pivot because I couldn't access health professionals. And so the only thing I had access to was my computer. And so I was like, Miss Jones is sitting at home with her surgery canceled. She can't go to therapy or she's scared to go to therapy because her husband's got medical issues. What does she do? Right? She still has knee pain. How can I help her? So it just was a process of I went to the patient. And then the other bucket is health professionals. And I would say my biggest barrier is how do I find therapists and surgeons that are willing to try something new that they perceive as new with their patients, change the way they currently do something. Health professionals are notoriously slow to change and adopt new things.
Yeah, why do you think that is?
I don't know. I guess I'd have to ask a bunch of people because I'm not like that. Like, I like to learn and apply, like I said earlier. So I just find that, okay, here's one. I have therapists that say, I don't need something new. My knee replacement patients have great outcomes, right? But my thing is, could they have better outcomes? Right? Or I have a surgeon that says the exact same thing. My patients do great. Well, I am talking to thousands of knee patients and they hate the recovery process. They hate their therapy because it inflicts pain and it causes them to cry or go home and feel bad about themselves and regret the decision to have surgery. So I don't know the reason why it's slow to adopt. I will say that if you think about it, if there was a PT sitting in front of me, maybe they want to get certified in concussion management. So all the education they're going to do, continuing education, is on concussions. Well, they're not going to learn about GONI. Maybe it's a clinic that only sees a small volume of knee replacement patients, so it's not a focus for the clinic, right? And then I already said earlier, surgeons, they don't learn and read research about post-op recovery. They're focusing on how to improve the efficiencies in the operating room. They're looking at the navigation, the instrumentation, the anesthesia. They're not looking at the home exercise program for the patient. They're kind of deferring that to their physical therapist. But then you have PTs that aren't all focused on knee replacement recovery. So I think it's simply that not everybody's looking for what I have, therefore they're not going to find it. I don't have a good answer for that.
Yeah. Do you think it would potentially help if you offered, some kind of affiliate program or something like that for them? Would that make a difference?
I mean, I don't know because I've tried that. I probably need to revisit it. I've tried all the things. Like I've tried become an affiliate and you get like passive income for your clinic for patients that do purchase and say they use a coupon code that's associated with your clinic. Like here's the Shehla Rooney clinic code, and so then we could track it. I've tried to do like distributorships or like where you buy in bulk and you sell for a profit. Again, all of these have been used, but not on any kind of a large scale where I would say that it's successful. So, like I said, there might be a handful of clinics in the US that will just refer patients to me. There's some that do that and don't want anything. And then there's some that have bought it and they rent it out to their patients. There's some that have bought it and tried to do, well, I shouldn't say tried, have successfully sold it to their patients for an upcharge to make a profit for their clinic. But it's not something that's, meaning the ones that do it buy it all the time. But it's hard for me to get PT clinics to, again, it's like a business or an administrative headache. That's how they perceive it. So, and sometimes it's an inventory problem. Maybe they don't have storage to put 10 gonies there. Maybe they don't have the administrative staff to collect payment from the patients. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah, curious, changing topics a little bit. What are your main growth targets for this year?
Yeah. Um, I have decided I'm going to revisit the B2B, which means I'm going to be more intentional with reaching out to find surgeons and PTs, which I have not done. I would be honest, in the last few years, I have not. I've really spent my last few years focusing on how to find that individual because they're an easy sell for me. Meaning, if they're having a knee replacement, I can help them. If they're not having one, I don't need. The next 12 months, I'm doing a deliberate focus on trying to find surgeons that are looking at improving the post-operative recovery, surgeons that have a lot of Medicare patients because of all this patient-reported outcome measures driving reimbursement. And there's a strong focus on looking at outcome measures and patient-reported stuff. And to me, I think my superpower with Goni is we really focus on the patient journey, the education to the patient, the support to the patient, the encouragement to the patient, because we have all these videos that they're seeing all the time. So we get to impart education all the time. So I think I'm going to look for surgeons that do that, surgeons that are, again, innovators looking to I actually had some surgeons tell me they don't love PT. They feel like they do the knee replacement surgery and they send them to the abyss of PT. And if the patient is not progressing well, they don't know if it's the patient or the PT. So even finding surgeons that are like, maybe they treat patients in rural areas that can't easily access PT. Maybe I could provide a solution for them. Patients that can't afford their copay costs, maybe or have limited insurance for PT. Those are people I'm looking to connect with. And then same thing with PT clinics, those that are trying to maybe create a niche for themselves. Like maybe they want to tell the surgeons, hey, we're offering a brand new home program for knees that's really successful, or PT clinics that are trying to get a new revenue stream in and they want to sell a product to their patients. Again, PT clinics that maybe they don't have enough staff. And they're like, if we could reduce 3 times a week knee replacement patients to 2 times a week or 1 time a week, we could open up some slots to evaluate new patients, which we all know will become return patients in the future. So I think there's lots of opportunity to figure it out, but that's what I'm looking for. People that are like, we get a lot of knees or we want a lot of knees. Let's figure out how to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And I know you've presented internationally and you're sold across 5 continents. How are you thinking about global market opportunities?
I really should be spending more time on global marketing opportunities because, again, in the US, healthcare is a monetized system. But in countries like Canada, the UK, Australia, like it's a government assisted healthcare program. So, the government wants to pay the least amount for their consumer with the least number of healthcare touch points. And I feel like Goni is like check, check, and check, right? Like I want you to see me less, do more of it at home, and have less complications. And so I feel like I have a better ability to penetrate a market in a country where the government is so focused on trying to save costs. Like, for example, I'm actually from Canada. And I mean, my dad had to wait 18 months for his knee replacement surgery because they have a backlog. So to be able to improve that system, which is a pain point for them, what if we could get that shortened because people are needing therapy less afterwards? What if some of them don't even need the surgery because we can get their knee moving better? Like, so there's just opportunities in other global markets that I don't have access to in the US because the US is a completely different system. But with that said, Canada does like 1,000 knee replacements a year compared to our almost 1 million per year. Right. So I'd love to get it more in the US simply because of the volume here.
Yeah, well, I could completely understand that. So, what trends in physical therapy and rehabilitation excite you most?
I mean, I guess I love that there's the value based care is being thrown around, remote therapeutic monitoring is being thrown around. I think that COVID kind of brought to light that virtual therapy can be effective. And so I think that's kind of neat. I think everybody complains that insurance doesn't pay up as much and they complain they're at the mercy of reimbursement. But I think, okay, great. They're reducing the amount of therapy they pay for. Well, then again, what can we do for that? Like, let's lean into that and figure out a different way to generate some revenue while improving the patient outcome. I also love the fact that the patient is becoming their own consumer and they're doing a lot more cash pay services. So I kind of fit in there too. So I feel like I got a lot of assets in my corner. Again, it wasn't done intentionally, but in hindsight, I'm like, I fit a lot of the check boxes that are trending with healthcare right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what will be crucial for GoNee to get right in the next year?
My messaging for surgeons and my messaging for physical therapists, and by that I mean I need to be able to explain the benefits of GoNee and how it benefits them. So again, it's a new concept for me. I've been a PT for 26 years, but this is a marketing strategy. And it sounds selfish, but it's true. What's in it for them? What's in it for the surgeon to want to adopt something new? What's in it for the PT to change how they're doing something? And I think that's going to be the key thing I need to figure out. What's in it for them where it becomes a no brainer that we need to offer the patient this advanced home program because it is good for the patient, it's good for our finances, it's good for, X, Y, and Z. I think that's going to be my biggest focus.
Yeah. So, if we have this conversation again in 12 months, what achievement would make you proudest?
If I could tell you that I had X number of orthopedic surgery centers or ambulatory surgery centers or orthopedic surgeon offices, if I could say, like, I have ambulatory surgery centers around the US that have adopted GoKnee as part of their knee replacement program, if I could tell you I had 50 PT clinics that have adopted GoKnee as the standard of practice, that when they have a knee replacement evaluation, that they are handed a GoKnee as part of their not as part, that is their home exercise program. I feel like that would be a huge win for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to happen for you. I can see it. Yeah, of course. And that's it for today's episode of Healthier, Happier You, the people working to make it happen. A huge thank you to Shehla Rooney for sharing her insights and the amazing work that GoNee is doing to help people live healthier, happier lives. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who could benefit. And if your brand or business making an impact in health, wellness, or personal care, we'd love to help you grow. Connect with me at luxhammer.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, stay healthy, stay happy, and keep making a difference.